So my mom has a box in her attic. It's just an old cardboard box covered in dust. Probably smells like insulation in the 90s. But inside that box are I don't even know how many blank VHS tapes. There's entire Toonami broadcasts, Cartoon Network specials, random movies I recorded off of TV. A few of those special Toonami movie events, like Gundam Wing Endless Waltz. Which, honestly, that's an entirely different episode. But my point is, I guarantee you somewhere in that box there are multiple recordings of the film Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Because every time USA Network did one of those Arnold Schwarzenegger birthday marathons that I talked about on the Predator episode, there I was, sitting in front of the TV with a blank tape ready to go, just waiting for the little red recording light to come on. Because this wasn't streaming. This wasn't, I'll just catch it later. No, if you wanted your favorite movie, you had to catch it. And if you missed it, you were waiting another 6 months. Or you were hoping your parents decided that Friday night was a Blockbuster night. And if Blockbuster didn't have a copy available to rent, well, buddy, you were screwed. And speaking of Terminator 2, did you know it released 35 years ago today as I record this? So, I figured, like I did for Predator a few weeks back, why not let me talk your head off about another one of my all-time favorite movies? Because Terminator 2 Judgment Day isn't just one of my favorite action movies. It's one of my favorite movies, period. And today, I'm not going to do a film school lecture. I'm not pretending this is an objective review. I'm celebrating the fact that 35 years later, T2 still absolutely rocks. Hey, and welcome to, or welcome back to, the Average Joe Nerdcast. I'm Nate, your resident Average Joe, and if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, then absolutely none of this should surprise you. Halo, Aliens, Predator, The Matrix, Gears of War, Terminator. Apparently, my favorite genre is humanity is absolutely screwed, but we're gonna fight anyway. What, Steve? Have I ever considered therapy? No, dude, I've considered a phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range. Anyway, this episode is completely biased. I am not pretending to be objective. I'm not here to convince you that Terminator 2 is the greatest action movie ever made. Although, well, I kinda am. But no, seriously, everyone's got that movie, right? Maybe yours is Die Hard, or it's Raiders of the Lost Ark, or it's Mad Max Fury Road, or it's Aliens. Which, trust me, is way up there for me too. But if someone asked me, Nate, what's your favorite movie? 9 times out of 10, my answer is always going to be Terminator 2. And it's been that way since I was a kid. I've watched this movie so many times I can quote entire scenes from memory. Hell, I accidentally won an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation contest in the Army because of this movie. Again, I'll probably get to that. But first, I've got to make a confession that I know is going to upset some Terminator fans. I watched Terminator 2 before I ever watched The Terminator. Now, in my defense, I was a kid. I didn't know there was a first one. I just knew there was this absolutely badass movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger riding a Harley, spinning a shotgun one-handed, and fighting a liquid metal robot. And you know what? That was enough for me. So when I finally got around to watching the original, I remember clearly thinking, Now, hold on, don't start writing the angry comments just yet, because as I've gotten older, I've completely fallen in love with the Terminator. I appreciate it for exactly what it is. It's a science fiction slasher movie. And Kyle Reese is one of the coolest characters in the franchise. And Arnold is genuinely terrifying. And Sarah Connor's transformation begins there. And honestly, without the Terminator, there is no Terminator 2. And it deserves every bit of respect that it gets. Although that Arnold puppet head while he's doing surgery on his eye, bless its little mechanical heart. I know what they were trying to do. I know what they had to work with. Stan Winston and that entire effects team were out there performing black magic in the mid 80s. But every single time I watch it, I still chuckle just a little bit. And then I immediately feel bad because they pulled off things people still talk about 40 years later. But T2? No, dude, no notes. Perfect. And I know perfect is a very dangerous word. Everyone's got something that they would change about their favorite movie. But me? Not this one. This movie has lived rent-free in my head for decades. And honestly, I think I finally figured out why. Can we please talk about the opening of this movie? Because good God! Sarah Connor starts narrating. The survivors of the nuclear fire called the war Judgment Day. The camera is just slowly panning across this completely destroyed Los Angeles. There's burned out cars as far as the eye can see and skeletons still sitting where they died. And it settles on this human skull. And then, bam! An endoskeleton steps right through it. And from that moment on, absolute chaos. There's resistance fighters exchanging plasma fire with machines. Hunter-killer tanks rolling across the battlefield, HK aerial drones screaming overhead, and that poor pickup truck getting absolutely obliterated. And let's not forget all of the endoskeletons marching through the battlefield. And speaking of endoskeletons, one of them is out there dual-wielding phased plasma rifles because apparently that one woke up that morning and chose violence. And I can remember Kid Nate was just sitting there going, holy shit! What an opening. Seriously, if you've never seen Terminator 2, hit pause on this right now and do yourself a favor and pull up those first 5 minutes on YouTube, and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. Now, here's the funny part. As a kid, I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh man, I hope they make a future war movie. I was just thinking, this is the coolest thing that I've ever seen. It wasn't until years later when every new Terminator movie started getting announced that I became the annoying fan yelling, come on! Stop sending Terminators back in time! Send me forward! Give me John Connor leading the Resistance. Give me Kyle Reese before he goes back in time. Give me humanity hanging on by a thread. Give me squads kicking in doors with plasma rifles. Give me hunter killers hunting people through the ruins of Los Angeles. Just give me that. And to be fair, Terminator Genisys actually opens with the Future War, and visually, they nailed it. The blue color palette, the machines, the aesthetic, you could tell someone looked at Terminator 2 and said, let's recreate that. Now, unfortunately, that's about where my praise ends, and Terminator Salvation, look, I will throw it a bone. I appreciate it. It's Stan Winston's final film. The T-600s were awesome, and it actually tried to move the story forward, but it still wasn't the future war movie I'd been building up in my own imagination since I was a kid watching T2 on a worn-out VHS tape. And you know what? Maybe that's an impossible standard. I don't know. All I know is, all these years later, that opening still gives me goosebumps. And you know what's funny? Everyone has their apocalypse. Some people like zombies. Some people are obsessed with aliens. Some people want giant asteroids. But me? Terminators. That's my apocalypse. The idea that one day humanity created something that just wouldn't stop. It never gets tired, it never negotiates, and it doesn't care if you were a soldier or just some random dude trying to make it home. If your name came up, that was it. And looking back, I think it explains a lot about me. People have asked me over the years, Nate, why are you so into Halo? Or why do you love Gears of War so much? Or why do you keep talking about aliens and Predator? Because apparently my entire personality is humanity is hilariously outmatched and decides to fight anyway. That's just my jam. Master Chief, Marcus Phoenix, Ellen Ripley, Dutch, Sarah Connor, John Connor. Give me regular people or extraordinary people standing in front of something they have absolutely no business surviving and saying, all right, let's do this. What'd you say, Steve? Do I still think I could survive the Terminator apocalypse? No, absolutely not. I'd be one of those skeletons Sarah Connor was narrating over in the first 5 minutes. I mean, let's just be real. I'd like to think I'd be out there with a plasma rifle fighting for humanity, but statistically, I'd probably get vaporized in the opening montage. And honestly, I'm okay with that. Because if I'm going out, at least I got to see an HK tank first. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Nate, how many times have you actually watched Terminator 2? My friends, I have absolutely no idea at this point. A lot. Enough to where I can quote entire scenes from memory. And that actually got me into a very strange situation once. So, just a little bit of Nate lore. Back in 2006, I was at Fort Leonard Wood for basic training in AIT, and apparently one of the traditions in our company was that at the Warrior Dinner, everyone would do impressions of the drill sergeants. Just harmless fun. Well, somehow one of our drill sergeants found out that back in the barracks, we weren't just doing drill sergeant impressions. We were entertaining ourselves with celebrity impressions. And one of my battle buddies had an incredible Jack Nicholson. Someone else could do Keanu Reeves. We were constantly quoting Pablo Francisco routines. And naturally, I was the Arnold Schwarzenegger guy. So, somewhere along the way, the competition stopped being who does the best drill sergeant and became, okay, who does the best celebrity impression? Now, when I tell you this was judged, I don't mean by a bunch of privates sitting at a table. I'm talking our drill sergeants, our first sergeant, and our company commander. The entire cadre. This thing was officiated. And, ladies and gentlemen, I would just like the record to show you are currently listening to the Fort Leonard Wood Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation champion, class of '06. Hooah! And before anyone asks, yes, my winning scene was from the first Terminator. Hey, just what you see, pal. The Uzi 9mm, I peaked early, and it's been downhill ever since. And now that that embarrassing piece of lore is out of the way, can we just celebrate some of the moments that absolutely rewired my little kid brain? Because there are a lot of them. First, the biker bar. Now, the actual bar fight didn't really make Kid Nate lose his mind, but the second Arnold takes the shotgun and the guy's sunglasses and walks over to that 1991 Harley Davidson Fat Boy while Bad to the Bone is playing, dude, that's cool. That scene did exactly two things to me. Number one, it gave me a lifelong appreciation for that exact model of Harley. And number two, every single time I hear Bad to the Bone, my brain immediately goes to Terminator 2, which is actually kind of funny because if you caught the How Did We Get Here episodes, then you know my dad was a biker. He owned Harleys and loved motorcycles all the way up until the day he died. Dad, I love you, but you were not Arnold Schwarzenegger walking toward a fat boy in Terminator 2. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're just now finding this out. Which, to be completely honest, I don't even know if you're even finding this out because you are dead. Anywho, then the mall scene. Now, if you saw the trailers back in 91, then you already knew Arnold was the good guy. But I was 3. So I got to experience that reveal exactly the way James Cameron intended. Arnold tells John to get down and boom, shoots the T-1000 right in the chest with a shotgun. Then all hell breaks loose. John's hauling ass out of the mall on that dirt bike, and the T-1000 is sprinting after him. And here's something that still blows my mind. Robert Patrick was so fast, they actually had to keep reshooting parts of that chase because he kept catching Edward Furlong. Just think about it. The guy playing the unstoppable machine was accidentally too unstoppable. Then Arnold cuts the skin off his arm, just peels it right off, and there's that iconic endoskeleton arm underneath. As a kid, I wasn't sitting there thinking, wow, incredible practical effects. No, I was thinking, how in the hell did they do that? Now that I'm older, I appreciate it even more. And Stan Winston, sir, you were an absolute legend. Then, Cyberdyne, and good lord, Sarah, the SWAT team, the minigun, everything exploding. And yes, another fun little bit of trivia. The minigun Arnold uses during the Cyberdyne shootout is the exact same minigun they used in Predator, which somehow makes me love both movies even more. And then, the highway chase. The helicopter flying underneath the overpass, which, if you've never heard this, was done practically. The film crew would not shoot it because of the risk, so James Cameron grabbed the camera and filmed it himself. Because apparently the phrase, "Hey buddy, that's probably incredibly dangerous," has never existed in James Cameron's vocabulary. And you know what? Thank God for that. Because 35 years later, that entire sequence still absolutely rips. And finally, the steel mill. The liquid nitrogen truck, the T-1000 gets frozen solid, shot, shatters into 1,000 pieces, and somehow James Cameron still wasn't finished showing off. Because the damn thing puts itself back together again. But besides all that, you know something I didn't fully appreciate until I got older? Sarah Connor. Now, as a kid, Sarah Connor was just awesome. She escaped from Pescadero, she knew every weapon imaginable, and she was absolutely shredded. Kid Nate just thought she was one of the coolest characters in the movie. But there was one scene that scared the absolute hell out of me, and it's her nightmare sequence. Sarah standing on the playground watching little kids play, seeing little John and herself as she was depicted in the first movie. Then, the flash, the shockwave, people getting vaporized, her skin burning away until she's nothing but a screaming skeleton clinging to a chain-link fence. I clearly remember being a kid and just thinking, no? That scene terrified me. And here's the part that's somehow even scarier. Nuclear experts have said James Cameron's depiction of that nuclear blast is one of the most realistic portrayals of a city being hit by an atomic weapon ever put to film. Which is a horrifying compliment. So, thanks for the lifelong nightmares, Jim. I appreciate it. But then Sarah wakes up, and she sees what she's carved into that picnic table, and it's just 2 words. No fate. And that's the moment she makes a decision. She's done running. If the man most directly responsible for Skynet is Miles Bennett Dyson, then she's going to stop Judgment Day herself. Because from Sarah's perspective, this is the man who destroyed her entire life. Because of him, Kyle Reese is dead. Because of him, she spent years locked away while everyone called her insane. Because of him, her son is destined to grow up fighting a war against the machines. Because of him, Judgment Day happens. So when she goes to Dyson's house, she isn't going there to threaten him. She's going there to execute him. And that's what finally hit me after all these years. Sarah Connor essentially becomes the Terminator. Not literally, but in her mission. One target, one objective, everything else disappears. The wife, the kid, the pleading. She even screams at him, "It's all your fault!" And from Sarah's point of view, she believes every word of it. Meanwhile, the actual Terminator is changing too. He's learning restraint, compassion. He's learning that there are things more important than simply completing the mission. So for one incredible stretch of the movie, the machine is becoming more human, while the human is becoming more machine. But then, she can't do it. And I don't think it's because she suddenly thinks Miles is innocent, or because she's forgotten everything she's lived through. She just can't do it, because standing in front of her isn't Skynet, or a Terminator, or Judgment Day. It's just a terrified man with a wife and a kid, begging to live, and she realizes she's no longer looking through the scope at the man who ends the world. She's just looking at the man who hasn't ended it yet. And that is one of the smartest pieces of writing in the entire movie. And Kid Nate never noticed it. Kid Nate was still trying to recover from the nightmare scene that had scared the living daylights out of him. Once again, thanks for everything, Jim. And while we're here, can we just take another second and appreciate Robert Patrick? Because I genuinely think the T-1000 is one of the greatest movie villains ever put on screen. And a lot of that comes down to what he is. The T-800, well, you know what you're looking for. Big Austrian guy, probably wearing leather, built like a brick wall. You're probably going to spot him in a crowd. But the T-1000, good luck, dude. Because he can be anyone. A cop, your parents, a security guard, the guy standing next to you in line. You never know where he is, only that he's still out there and hunting. And that constant pursuit is what makes him so terrifying. Even when the movie isn't focused on him, he's still in the back of your mind, somewhere, still looking for John Connor. Then you start learning what Robert Patrick did to prepare for the role. And you realize he wasn't just playing a machine. He studied birds of prey, the way they lock onto a target, the way they move with purpose, the way they never seem distracted. And once you know it, you can't unsee it. And here's another one of my favorite little details. Robert Patrick trained himself not to blink. Seriously, go back and watch the movie. Outside of one blink during the mall sequence, he almost never blinks. Even when he's firing his weapon, even when he's running, he's just staring, completely locked onto his target. It's one of those things you never consciously notice until someone points it out. And then you just can never unsee it. And 35 years later, I still think Robert Patrick gave one of the greatest villain performances in all of movie history. And it's not because he tried to steal every scene he was in. It's because every time he was on screen, you immediately believed no one was safe. So, I've been asking myself while putting this episode together, why this movie? Out of all the action movies that came out in the 80s and 90s, why is T2 still the one I keep coming back to? And I think it's because there isn't a wasted scene in it. Seriously, go back and watch it. Every scene either builds a character, raises the stakes, or gives you one of the coolest action sequences ever put on film. Nothing feels like filler. The practical effects still absolutely hold up. Hell, the CGI still holds up. The stunt work is ridiculous. The pacing never lets up, and the score is iconic. The casting is perfect. James Cameron somehow found that sweet spot where spectacle and storytelling actually make each other better. And honestly, that's rare. Really rare. Movies this ambitious usually get one thing wrong. Maybe the pacing drags somewhere, maybe the effects don't age well, maybe the villain isn't memorable, or maybe the ending falls flat, but Terminator 2 somehow sticks the landing every single time. Does that mean it's objectively perfect? Probably not. Someone listening right now is yelling into the void that Die Hard is better, or Aliens, or Raiders, or whatever your favorite movie is. And you know what? That's awesome! Because every nerd has that movie. The one you've watched more than any other. The one where you know every line by heart. The one you throw on when you've had a rough day. The one that just feels like home. And for me, that's Terminator 2 Judgment Day all day long. All these years later, I still get excited when that opening starts. I still smile when Arnold walks out of that biker bar. I still wish someone would finally give us a proper future war movie we've all been waiting for. And somewhere, in my mom's attic, there's a box full of worn-out VHS tapes that proves every word I've said today. So happy 35th anniversary, Terminator 2. You will always be my favorite. And honestly, I just don't see that changing anytime soon. And that, my friends, is going to do it for another episode of the Average Joe Nerdcast. I hope you had as much fun listening to me ramble about one of my favorite movies as I had recording this thing. But now, I want to hear from you. What's your favorite scene from Terminator 2? Was it the Future War opening? The mall chase? The Cyberdyne shootout? The highway chase? Or the steel mill? Or are you one of those people that's going to tell me the Terminator is actually the better movie? Let me know. You know where to find me. And if you enjoyed today's episode, I'd really appreciate it if you'd follow the show. Leave a rating wherever you're listening, and if you know another nerd who grew up wearing out VHS tapes and quoting Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, send this episode their way. It genuinely helps more than you know. As always, a huge shout out to My Player 2 for putting up with my endless movie quotes and for never once ever turning down an opportunity to throw Terminator 2 on. And shout out to each and every one of you listening right now. You guys have genuinely turned this from a hobby into something I'm proud of. Now, before I let you go though, don't forget, episode 100 of the Average Joe Nerdcast is right around the corner. 100 episodes, guys. I still can't believe I'm saying that out loud. So, if you've got a favorite AJN memory, a favorite episode, or maybe the show has just made you laugh during a rough week, or there's a rabbit hole you'd love to see me tackle next, I'd love to hear from you. So send me a message, record a voice memo, shoot me an email at averagejoenerdcast@gmail.com, or drop a comment over on YouTube. Whatever's easiest. I'd love to include as many of you as I can as we celebrate hitting triple digits. Because honestly, episode 100 isn't just a milestone for me. It's a milestone for all of us. So, until next time, stay gold, nerd bold, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Game over.
Oh, one last rabbit hole before I really let you go. And this literally occurred to me after I finished recording. John tells the Terminator you can't just go around killing people, right? Okay, so here's my question. Did John actually teach the Terminator morality, or did he just teach him constraints? Because just think about it. Before John ever gives him that order, the Terminator doesn't actually kill anyone. Yeah, he beats the hell out of the bikers. He steals the Harley. He shoots the T-1000. But his human body count? Big fat 0. So maybe John wasn't teaching morality. Maybe he was just updating the operating instructions. John says, you can't kill people. And the Terminator goes, understood. Orthopedic privileges have been activated. Seriously, From that point on, it's kneecaps. Buddy turned into the world's most aggressive orthopedic surgeon. I swear, the Terminator spends the rest of the movie optimizing within those constraints. Kill? No. Cripple? Yes. Anyway, now I have another excuse to go watch Terminator 2 for the billionth time. I'll catch you guys next time.